All right, Jules, let's get into some more. You mentioned the option of termination.
Yeah, I was just wondering if United, on the back of that, could go like, hang on a minute, this has to end now.
I'm not a lawyer. And when people say like they should terminate his contract, it can mean many different things, right? There are certain things that a club can do, or if a player is in a serious breach, where they can unilaterally terminate his contract and not pay up the rest of his contract. I'm not sure that giving an unauthorized interview, and apparently Manchester United only found out about this when they were boarding their flight to come back from London back to Manchester. I'm not sure that this is one of those situations where you can unilaterally terminate his contract based on that. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I haven't seen his contract.
I was wondering.
I would find this pretty extraordinary if that was the case. Now, they can also terminate it in a different way. They can terminate it when they go to George Mendes and say, George, and this is the reality. These are the options. You can go to George Mendes' agent and say, George, he's not going to play at all between now and the end of the season. There's no way back for him. So let's get together and let's rescind the contract. And then at that point, George might say, oh, well, but no, give me some money to do it, give him some money to do it, blah, blah, blah. That's an option too, right? Because between now and the end of the season, off the top of my head, I think United will likely owe him close to £20 million. Yeah. So you pay him $3 million or whatever, or $5 million. There's a number where you pay him and he just goes away, right? And then he's happy, Uncle George is happy, or whatever. So that is the kind of agreed termination. Mm-hmm. But the unilateral termination, I'm not sure that that's.
Yeah, no, maybe. Maybe both of them will say, you know what? There's no point continuing here. So he just said, I'm going to walk away. You don't pay me anything. United say, perfect. We don't want you back here anywhere. And then that's it. And that's maybe what he wants too after that interview. What would he want after the interview?
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he wants. But let's look at the options and what happens next. Let's go back to the interview a second, right? And it's my natural contrarian self. What did he say in the interview that is, we all agree that it was inappropriate and it was unauthorized.
Yeah.
What did he say in the interview, in your mind, that isn't true?
From what we've seen so far, the only issue I have with what he says is when he says they tried to force me to leave.
In the summer.
They didn't want me at the club, some people, last season and also this season. Which is true. I don't think they wanted him there.
Okay.
We've said it many times. But where I would have liked him to say is like, and I didn't want to be here either, because we all know that he tried to leave. We all know that Jorge Mendes tried to find him another club. They didn't want to play in the Europa League. He wanted to play in the Champions League.
That is 100% true.
100% true.
I agree with you. And that maybe is a sin of omission on his part. Right?
Yeah, but be genuine then. Said, listen, they didn't want me there, but it's okay because I didn't want to be there. I ended up staying because I could not find another club. And now this is the situation. I feel betrayed. I feel blah, 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 blah. Fair enough. But don't forget to say to the whole world that you also didn't want to be there.
This is what it boils down to, I think, very, very simply about why he's still at the club. And this is why I think there are multiple people who are responsible in this. By the way, not Ten Hag. We've said from the start that when you appoint Ten Hag and you embark on a long-term rebuilding process, because that's what it is, right? Your 37-year-old striker on that kind of money is not going to be part of that rebuilding process. Shouldn't be part of it in a perfect world.
And it doesn't even fit the way Ten Hag plays.
It doesn't fit in any way. It doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense whatsoever, right? But the man has a contract, right? Mm. So from that perspective, it was in Cristiano's interest to move, and it was in Manchester United's interest to move him on.
Yeah.
The fact that neither Cristiano nor Manchester United, nor George Mendes were able to make that happen last summer, that is a stain, I think, on all of them.
Yeah.
Because it's a stain on Manchester United too, because you know what? It made Erik Ten Hag's job more difficult.
Of course. But bite the bullet, pay him off the last season of his contract and set him free, and that's it.
And I don't think we can entirely let United off the hook on this one, on that part of it, right? They created a situation for himself. Now, obviously, when people say, oh, but there were no offers for him, they're being disingenuous. Let's be very, very clear. There's no offers for Cristiano Ronaldo on the terms that he earned, and nobody was going to also pay a transfer fee to sign him.
That's true.
That's been reported by a billion people from Fabrizio Romano on down, and they're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there's no clubs who would take him
Yeah.
if he was willing to take a pay cut, and if there was no transfer fee
Ruben
involved.
Amorim, the sporting manager, said when they played against Spurs the other day that they would love him back, but they just can't afford him right now.
So at some point, you have to go back to the summer and say, United, were you perhaps a little bit greedy? Oh, look, but he's still the third leading goal scorer in the Premier League last season.
Yeah.
We can't let him go for free. Or he's an asset like worth this much on our books. We can't take a hit. Was this the thinking at United? Was this the thinking among some big decision makers at United?
You would think
I don't
so.
know. Equally, Uncle George, are you looking out for your client? Are you looking out for this guy who's playing in his last World Cup, who has made you a very wealthy man over the years, and you know that if he stays at United, he's going to deal with his zoo leading up to the World Cup, which is what he cares about, I think, more than anything, right? And Portugal.
So.
Did you help yourself there? Equally, Cristiano, you're not a child, right? You may not be in the ins and outs. You may be surrounded in this echo chamber of people where, like, you go on Instagram in your underwear with your family and everybody thinks that you're flexing and people think it's cool and you think it's cool. And most people look at this and say, well, what the heck is this, right?
Yeah.
But surely you should be intelligent enough to understand that the reason you can't move is because the clubs that can't afford you, some of them don't want you because for personal reasons. Others said, yeah, we'll take you, but we're not going to take you and pay you this much money. It's not that difficult to understand.
And he's earned enough money in his career to just go, do you know what?
It's on all of them. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be fair. I blasted Gareth Bale for years over this when he wouldn't move his rear side out of Real Madrid because he was happy collecting his money and not playing. And now it's the same thing with Cristiano. You can't have it both ways.
But we've said it so many times and we warned them, and I think not just us, everybody, that keeping Cristiano at the club, even before the season started, we knew, one, he was not going to play much. And I tell you what, had Anthony Martial not being injured so much, Cristiano would have played even less.
Well, and this brings me to another point.
But just to finish, we said he's going to be more trouble than anything else this season if he stays. He ended up staying. He scored 3 goals, I think, in all competitions. Like maybe 2 in the league and 1 in the Europa League, or 2 in the Europa League, 1 in the league, or 4 maybe, or something like that, which is ridiculous. He was not happy because he was not playing enough. Ten Hag was like, I can't play him. It just doesn't work. Everybody can see it. And that led to so many problems where this could have been so avoided had he left in the summer.
I'm interested in fact why didn't it happen? Because we're all very good. We could all see it. Could United not see it? And I'm going to suggest that maybe the reason United couldn't see it is for the following reasons. One is Erik ten Hag didn't stand up for himself and say, I don't want Cristiano Ronaldo in my team out from the start.
I don't believe that a second.
Now, what don't you believe?
I think publicly he had to say it.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
But privately, he said to the club,
I'm sure he said it privately. I don't blame Erik ten Hag for not saying it publicly as well. And the reason I don't blame Erik ten Hag for it is, you're some bald dude from Ajax. You just landed at Old Trafford. You don't have the political capital to say it. So I don't blame Erik ten Hag in public for saying, oh, no, Cristiano's not a problem. He gets his goals. Oh, yeah, of course he fits. He'll score goals. Whatever the hell, right? I don't blame Erik ten Hag for this part at all.
No.
So then you look at it, who's in charge? Richard Arnold, he's just been appointed, right? He's just been appointed to the top seats. I don't think he had the cojones to come out and make a stand like this. Maybe he did privately. Maybe he spoke to the Glazers. John Murtha and his friend Darren Fletcher. Again, these guys, they have no public profile whatsoever, right? They've been in the job for a year. This isn't Monchi we're talking about. They don't have the public capital or the guts to go out and rock the boat and say, no, look, guys, what are we doing here? This is stupid. It's bad for us and it's bad for him if he stays. So it was kind of like a perfect storm that led to this, that led to United. And I think this is a screw up from United in the summer.
Yeah, I agree with you. All of this was so predictable. It was unreal. Maybe we didn't think that he would walk out on the team before the end of the Spurs game. I think it was the Spurs game. Maybe we didn't think that there would be all those problems, but it was still so predictable.
I also want to say this, and I'm putting my Duncan Castles hat on. Last night I was on the show, and obviously it was open season on Cristiano and whatever, right? But when I asked, what bad things has Cristiano done other than not playing well, which presumably is not by choice? What bad things has he done other than leaving early in the Spurs game, for which he gave that? It's not an apology. Let's not joke. It's not an apology. It says, it should have been an apology. But but I'm saying is, what disruption has he caused in the past 4 months at Manchester United in terms of bad behavior, in terms of lack of professionalism?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that might be a few things like he did last. I think there's a few things that he maybe did within the training ground like he did last season, but that's Cristiano for you.
Certainly nothing that's come out, right?
No, nothing that's come out so far this year, but I think you're right. I think if we go back to your initial question about what he said that is wrong in his interview, from what we know, from what we saw, apart from that moment where he didn't admit that he wanted to leave himself, the rest is right. There's been very little evolution since Sir Alex left. The respect for Ten Hag, I think he means that he doesn't have a respect. He said he doesn't respect me, so I don't respect him.
Right. That's his view. You can't really argue with it.
And he feels that Ten Hag doesn't respect him because he doesn't play him right.
Or because he doesn't worship him and build a whole team around him.
And he brings him on for 5-10 minutes at the end, which you would think that Cristiano absolutely hates.
I think most players don't like coming on in garbage time, right?
Yeah,
I think
especially
goat candidates
towards the end of the career. But then again, we go back to the point where you are the wrong club, mate. Cristiano, you are the wrong club. If you think that you can play every single minute or start every single game in that team and do well, this is not happening because it doesn't work for you anymore. The sympathy for his little girl, I mean, as a father, you and I, everybody, you would not, if that really what happens, I don't know, we don't know.
But it's also one of those things, right? He says they don't show enough empathy, right? You can't be wrong when you say that because empathy is something you feel.
Yeah.
So what could United have done more for him?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they tried to. Yeah, I'm sure they tried to be supportive of that. He didn't feel that support. When you're dealing with that kind of situation, nobody can tell you how you should process or not process the feelings, right?
No.
That's how it felt.
So it's that knowing Cristiano like we do, he still thinks that he can start for this team in the Premier League and score 20 goals a season, which is not true.
But I'll tell you what,
it
Jules,
is not true.
I'll tell you what, Jules, before you say that, right? You can say it's not true, but we've been around enough top level world class athletes to know that 99.9% of them believe in themselves and back themselves, and that's why they are where they are, right?
No,
so I'm not going to blame him for thinking that he can start and score 20 goals in the Premier League this season.
No, but me neither. But there's a point where you can look at yourself and your form and your team and the manager who's in charge, and maybe didn't know Ralph Rangnick. I get that. I think it was an easy tackle like the one on Wayne Rooney. Well, I'm better looking than Wayne Rooney. I'm not going to say it, but it's true, so I'm still saying it. I mean, come on, how old are you? Is this the school playground? Are we on primary school saying that you're better looking than Wayne Rooney? I mean, come on. Just that point in the interview, like,
to make it clear, Cristiano, you are better looking than Wayne Rooney. You had a better career than Wayne Rooney. You're taller than Wayne Rooney. You
scored more goals than Wayne Rooney.
You scored more goals than Wayne Rooney.
And you won more Champions League.
Exactly. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. It doesn't mean Wayne Rooney's not entitled to his opinion.
But Cristiano is an intelligent guy. As egocentric as he is, like a lot of the GOATs, we said it. You can at some point you can just pause yourself. Say, okay, this is Ten Hag. I don't know him much, but I know what he's about. This is what he's about. I don't fit in here. Surely, even the biggest of egos look into it and go like, okay.
I'm sorry, but I go back to this. Is it Cristiano or is it the people who are paid handsomely out of his wages to look after him? And I'm talking about George Mendes. I'm talking about Gesti Foot. Oh, we're the best organization in the world. We have millions of people working for us.
Right? These are the people enough and big enough to say,
that's fine.
Okay.
These are his advisors. And I think part of the problem is you're surrounded by people who keep telling you how wonderful everything is, how great it is. Again, I don't know. I wasn't privy to the conversations between George and Cristiano. But if George didn't make this situation very clear to him, George let himself down and let Cristiano down.
Yeah.
And by the way, just a little side, not a good time for the George Mendes empire between Cristiano and Mourinho and Wolves and João Felix, Bernardo Silva still at City. All these things coming together. Not a great time for him. Let's talk options. Let's talk about what can happen in January. Now, I'm assuming that Ronaldo lanced this boil, got this out of his chest. He's going to go and he's probably already 100% in Portugal World Cup mode.
Definitely, yeah.
And he's managed to compartmentalize it, and he'll deal with what happens in January. And I'm assuming in the meantime, George and United are working the phones to try to find a landing
100%.
spot for him. I don't know that much has changed vis-a-vis the summer, in the sense that unless he takes a massive pay cut, there is nobody who will take him even as an additional striker. No Champions League caliber team.
Surely that's going to happen, right? Surely this time he's going to say, listen, it's not about the money here. What offers do I have? I can play for minimum wages or like very low money. United, I think, will let him go on a free. That's
You're wearing a
pretty
Real
clear.
Madrid shirt. If he gets on the phone with
Can you
Carletto and
imagine
says,
that?
Carletto, look, after the World Cup, Kareem's going to be tired. You've already had to deal with Mariano Diaz at center forward and Rodrigo and whatever. I promise I'll behave. You know I behave for you.
Nah,
Would you? If you were
he needs to
Carletto,
go
would you?
somewhere where he's going to play, Gab. You
Would
can't
you
go somewhere.
You don't think he would play Real Madrid? Wait, did Kareem Benzema play every game at Real Madrid? I don't think so.
No, but okay. I think he needs to go somewhere where he's going to be the star and the starting striker. He might not play every single minute of every single game, but he can't come in a club to be the backup of someone, or maybe even the backup of the backup.
Oh, should we invent Cristiano Ronaldo for Tammy Abraham swap?
Oh my word!
Can you imagine? No, I mean, but this is the thing, right?
Do you know what I mean? Why would he go somewhere where he's the backup? He hasn't worked at United. It's not going to work out somewhere else if he just goes to Napoli and he's the backup of Osimhen and of Raspadori. That's not going to work.
No, it's not. I'm going to go back to Real Madrid on this point, though, because this is one situation where there's somebody who can handle him. And I'm also going to go back to the fact that post-World Cup, Kareem Benzema can't play every single game. And I'm going to go back to the fact that Real Madrid won a Champions League with Fede Valverde playing out on the other wing. Is there a scenario where you say to Cristiano, you say, look, you'll play some games. The reality is Valverde's great. Valverde will start every game. He might have to start some of these games in midfield because Luka Modric is nearing 40 and he's going to be coming back from a World Cup. Toni Kroos isn't getting any younger either. So I'm going to have to use Valverde in midfield in some of these games. Rodrigo's great, but he's a kid. We don't have depth. We have Asensio who's on his way out, whatever. If the number is right, if you were Florentino and Carletto comes to you and says, hey, Florent, let's roll the dice on this one. I can control him. It's 6 months, and then we see. Would you do it?
I don't know. I think they had the chance to do it in the summer and they didn't do it for a reason. So I think the reason will still be there in January for 6 months instead of 12 months in June or July or August.
I think in the summer, the reason they didn't do it was because it was going to cost them a ton of money and he probably wanted a multi-year deal. But now if we're talking 6 months and then let's see what happens.
Just don't think
I do not. Okay,
I
put it
think
this
they'd
way.
be very wary.
If we're talking top tier, do we agree that is the only destination unless Todd Bowley says, oh, look, Tuchel's not here anymore.
Right? Hey, Graham, what about Cristiano again? Maybe, I don't know, maybe Sporting, maybe...
No, but if we're talking like the highest echelon.
highest,
right?
sorry,
No disrespect
highest.
to Sporting, right?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Would you? I mean, now that
I don't
Bowley
know.
brought in all
MLS,
these advisors, and
what does he want, Gab? What does he want? Does he want to still enjoy the last few months? I'm not sure it would be enjoyable to go to Real Madrid and play. Okay, being nice, 50% of the game between January and May. I don't know how enjoyable that is going to be. I don't know. I don't know if it's enjoyable for him to go and play.
Sorry, if
for
Valverde plays in midfield, and I think he will have to play a lot in midfield, you don't think he's ahead of every other striker that every other forward Real Madrid has, except then,
to play as a right winger,
except for Vinicius and Benzema?
No. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how he would play on the right wing. I don't know if you change your system and where you go.
You can easily tweak your system. That's not
don't
so
know.
much of
I
an issue.
just don't
Benzema
know.
drops a little deeper, whatever. There are ways to do it. That's not.
How long does he have left in his career? 18 months?
Who knows?
So surely he would want to enjoy those last moments, right?
Mm-hmm. And you don't think it'd be fun playing for Real Madrid, even if you don't play every minute of every game? No? Okay. I don't know. Because for him, fun is scoring loads of goals and winning trophies where he takes a big part in it. I think equally, though, fun for him is the big stage, right?
Yeah, true.
You know what?
So you don't think going to MLS, for example, is a good idea in January?
No,
for example, that's not an option for him whatsoever.
I don't think that would be a good option for him. I think he would see that. Look, maybe it's different. Maybe if he wins the World Cup, he says, all right, I've done it. Boom, I'm done. Let's go to MLS, right? And I'm not saying this to be disrespectful of MLS.
No,
but
no, no, no.
most
Of course,
players,
it's
when
not.
they're at or near the top of the season, right? I don't know that MLS has ever in their history signed the guy who was the third leading Premier League goal scorer 2 years earlier, right? It's just not, right? So unless it's something like that, I just genuinely don't see him. I see him still craving the big stage.
Yeah, maybe.
Craving backing himself to change the manager's mind, even maybe incorrectly.
So
right?
in that,
And then I would see Sporting as some kind of backup option, because
So-
he knows that if he goes to Sporting, yeah, he's playing in his backyard and it's an emotional decision, but you have to be at peace with yourself if you make that step down. And again, no disrespect to Sporting fans.
In that case, I am with you, and I think there's only two options then. Real Madrid is one, on a 6-month deal, and then you see again in the summer, and then Sporting. There is no one else, unless Mourinho and Roma say like, okay, yeah, we take him.
Yeah, but then you don't have Champions League football, and you have a zoo, and you know.
So yeah, that's it. I don't see anything else, anybody else.
All right. A word on the game itself, because I don't want to overshadow this, but it is a big away win for Manchester United.
Yeah, it's big.
One that they needed. I'm struck by this. I'm struck by the fact that United, first of all, this is not Ten Hag's United, in the sense that it's not the Ajax Ten Hag United, right? It's not the United that takes that plays the way Ajax did. And this to me tells me that he still has a long way to go. And I go back to this, and I mean, people laugh at me, oh, you know, like, the reality is it's really hard. You know, he had the full preseason. It's really difficult to change the way you play when you're playing, weekend, midweek. It's extremely difficult.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
And, this is a squad that lacks in some positions, the players that he would need too.
So what we're seeing counter-attacking United. And obviously there were players missing. Anthony, of course. Anthony's supposedly injured. It's funny how his injury coincided with him doing that spin and then he kind of disappeared.
Yeah,
but
and
I
then
don't
he's
know.
going to go to
Yeah.
World Cup.
But I saw United play well in the first half. They could have scored more.
Yeah.
After the break, and I think Ten Hag came out and said it, we lost control, and that's why he made that.
It was far too open.
That defensive, it was a McTominay for Alanga, right?
Yeah,
you're sending
or
on
Martial
another
or something. Yeah.
You're sending on another defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
To me, that's super negative, and Fulham equalize. Would we be, if the Ronaldo stuff hadn't broken and Garnacho hadn't come on to score that goal with literally like the last kick of the game?
Yeah.
Would we be criticizing Ten Hag right now?
I think so. We will certainly be highlighting the positives, and there were positives in that first half. And I think Martial, again, I'm completely biased here, but can bring a lot to that team and should have scored. But the second half was a horror show until the Garnacho goal, really.
Why? Why does that happen?
Too open, I think, too hectic. I don't know if it can't come from Ten Hag.
These aren't bad players, and I'm sure Ten Hag didn't say,
No,
hey,
but
guys,
I think
be open and hectic and
they look
play
tired.
badly.
And I think when they look tired, when you lose control of games sometimes because you physically cannot be on top of the other teams, which leads you to losing the ball, bad passes, bad positioning, the press is not working as well, and then I think you lose control like that. And I think Fulham are a good team. They've got really good players that can hit you.
Without Mitrovic.
And they were. They played with 10 because Vinicius. Come on.
Seriously, you put Mitrovic for Vinicius, maybe we're having a different conversation.
But still,
right now.
But I think they showed guts to win it and character, and I think Garnacho could be something quite very interesting in the future.
All right, final question. Are you on the Palhinha bandwagon?
Oh, I love him.
It's funny because I wouldn't think he'd be the kind of player you would love, because he's kind of like Matic with wheels, right?
And younger, yeah.
And younger, yeah.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.